Okay, so as we edge closer to 2024, Indian startups are navigating through an era that was marked by a funding slowdown. Just $7 billion flown into the ecosystem this year. Now, in an era of cautious capital and investors increasingly prioritizing financial stability, startup founders were compelled to cut costs, resulting in approximately 250,000 employees being laid off in the global technology and startup sector this year. So what does 2024 have in store for the ecosystem? Aishwarya Anand finds out from investors and founders from across the globe.
The Asia-Pacific region is a hotbed for innovation, fostering a startup culture across different economies. With 159 startup ecosystems ranked in the Global 1000, the most number of emerging startups are concentrated in China, which holds nearly 33% of the market share, followed by India, which stands at 30.1%. I'm here at Thai Global Summit in Singapore to find out what are some of the top emerging startup trends in the Asia-Pacific region and what does the future look like after a 2-year slump in funding and valuation.
Funding for Indian startups has dropped to a 5-year low in 2023, with a total $7 billion having flown into the ecosystem so far this year, according to data from Traction. This decline is primarily attributed to the collapse in late-stage funding, with startups receiving only $4.2 billion in 2023.
In some ways, this so-called funding winter and growth in later stages is the best thing to have happened. It's taking out fluff. Founders will become much more focused on building real businesses, not just trying to exit at the next round. Corporate governance will get better because there's no more free money.
Venture capitalists are sitting on a record amount of dry powder, and while startup funding and exit strategies may remain tight for the next year, investors and founders say there are some promising signs ahead.
Anything to do with AI. Clearly that will happen. It's going to go in a direction that we haven't thought about, but it's going to be a huge trend. The second sector, which is my favorite, is space. We're just starting in space. We are going to see world-class space startups, and there will always be IT products, there will be SaaS. I'm not saying they're going away.
Very bullish that agri-tech ecosystem will follow what microfinance followed from 2008 to now. It will be a huge ecosystem 10-15 years from now. I feel similar opportunities in skill tech, gov tech, obviously education and medical as well, which obviously a lot of other people are investing in.
In fact, impact investing is another emerging area of interest for investors. The market in India has grown significantly in recent years. Over the last 5 years, $10 million plus funding rounds have more than doubled for impact startups, a report by World Economic Forum showed.
India needs a lot of true impact funds that are actually bringing true patient capital that a lot of startups who are sustainable but will not generate a regular VC return need.
The area that everyone is going to double down on is inclusion, sustainability. I also feel that there'll be one different format of funding that I hope will take shape, and that's blended finance.
In response to a more restrictive funding landscape, founders are now emphasizing profitability over growth, marking a significant shift after 7 years, as highlighted in a report by Innovin Capital. With investors increasingly prioritizing financial stability, startups find themselves compelled to cut costs. This has resulted in approximately 2,500,000 employees being laid off in the global technology and startup sector this year.
So it's better to just cut off at an earlier stage and stuff like that, and be a little bit more decisive rather than just let it go and stuff like that. Because over time, your business will be impacted.
We're in a higher interest rate environment by the factor of 5, and I don't think it's going to be going away anytime soon. And if that is true, then I think all investors, tech investors in particular, have to reframe how they think about their allocations.
Funding for startups in Asia mirrored global trends, with year-to-year being down. However, Q3 reported a slight 8% increase over the previous quarter. Startups in the region raised $22.3 billion this year compared to $24.4 billion in the same period last year. In Q2 this year, the startups had raised $20.6 billion. AI, deep tech, lean tech, and purpose-led entrepreneurship have emerged as the top focus areas for investors this year. With camera person Saurabh Chauhan, this is Aishwarya Anand for CNBC-TV18.
Well, that was a wrap of the investor outlook for 2024. And with that, it's a wrap.
For more news and updates, all you need to do is follow CNBC-TV18 on all of our digital platforms.